Konnichiwa, Nihon Cricket Pod de Yokoso. Welcome to the Japan Cricket Podcast. I am your host, Alan Kerr, and with me, as always, fresh from Melbourne, is Todd Luckhurst. Toddy, how are you?
I'm well, Alan. Bit fresh down here, but yeah, say the weather's been quite warm up there in Sano. Some
Uh,
high 30s.
Close would be the word. Yeah, muggy, sweaty, generally fairly uncomfortable. Although as we're talking, it's currently started hammering down with rain. So bit of water for the grass at the SSCG, which I'm sure it will be grateful for. So yeah, it's very much peak summer here in Japan.
Yeah, it looks like it's a bit fresh down here, but we wouldn't mind some sun. So we don't want it as
Yeah,
hot as
well,
it is up there.
I'll see if I can send it your way, mate. All right,
Thanks.
we've got quite a bit to talk about since our last pod. This is the nature of doing pods with no particular time structure and just figuring out when we've got space in the busy schedules that we have. I think the obvious place to start is with the Asian Games. Lots of news in the last week. The fixtures were drawn initially. Some big news there, and then of course the Japan squads were both announced. So, how do you want to do this, Toddy? Do you want to take the squads and I'll take the fixtures?
Yep, let me just get the squads up. Been plenty
Yeah.
of
So
planning going into this pod, as you can tell.
yeah. So we started off with the girls' draw. The women's went first, and the women's team. Well, the women's tournament is 8 teams, so it's straight into quarterfinals. There's no preliminaries, straight knockouts. Japan are in there, and were drawn. It was a random draw, so four protected teams, and then a draw of who would play them. And Japan were first out of the hat to play against the number one seeds, India. So for every social media comment that we've had over the last years of, can't wait to see Japan against India. Well, it's happening at full level. The Indian women's team looks pretty much at full strength. The Japan team looks pretty full strength as well. So, the revolution's got to start somewhere, Toddy, and that will be a red letter day for Japan cricket taking on India at the Rodogi Sports Ground.
How exciting is it, Japan just having to draw India? What a fabulous moment for Japan cricket to go up against the powerhouse that is the Indian women's national team. Be
Yeah,
amazing event. Hopefully they go well. I'm sure they will.
I was almost going to mistakenly refer to them as the defending world champions. Of course, it was a T20 World Cup recently, wasn't it? And I don't think they've actually ever won the T20 World Cup, but they are 50 over world champions as it stands. And that, yeah, it's going to be a real experience for our girls to measure themselves against the best in the world. Hopefully, they do themselves justice. They put in the performance that we talked about it on the last pod, didn't we? When they played against Thailand, they played against the best team in the tournament and they actually played their best game, which probably had a bit to do with the pressure being off and there not being too much expectation. And I think that will be a similar occasion playing India in the Asian Games. I don't think there'll be too much expectation. Hopefully the girls can feel freed up and go out and express themselves and show what they can do. And I'm sure there will be a very boisterous crowd. Which will hopefully be, something new for our players because I know the women's team don't often get to play in front of big audiences. So that will be a little bit of taste of celebrity for them, and I hope that they make the most of it. Um, so we don't have dates for these games yet. We have rumored dates, but we're still waiting on final confirmation of when the fixtures will actually be. There's just some hand wringing behind the scenes, I believe, around who plays on what day at what time. So we'll bring you that news when we get it. But on to the men, slightly different setup for the men's tournament. It was four teams directly through to quarterfinals, but then two groups of three in which the top two teams from each group go through into quarterfinals. Strangely, and I can't quite figure out why this happened, but Afghanistan were given a seeding, so they weren't in the pot. They were automatically first in Group A. To me, it doesn't really make sense why you'd only seed one team because they may as well have just been first out the pot. Like I don't really get it. You're not keeping them apart from anyone. I think all you're doing is assuming that whatever group they're in, they will play, I guess, the team in the fourth ranked team in the quarterfinals, I guess. But I think that was a solvable problem regardless. Anyway, the rest of the teams came out of the hat, and Japan came out in the same pot as Afghanistan and Nepal. And then the other three teams, Hong Kong, Oman, and Malaysia, are in Group B. So yeah, Japan definitely got the thick end of the stick there, in comfortably drawing the two best teams. Nepal will be very much expecting to give Afghanistan a run for their money, and we'll be hoping to gain a good draw in those quarterfinals. So yeah, Japan up against it a little bit, but again, should be a terrific opportunity to test themselves against a full member, an Afghanistan team that, since Japan last played them in 2008, have certainly gone on to achieve things that was unimaginable back at that time. But of course, we came up against Nepal just 8 months ago in Oman, so we ran them pretty close that day. So hopefully we can do something similar. And you never know, if we can knock over Nepal and make it through to the quarterfinals, it would be a magical moment for Japan cricket for sure.
Yeah, it definitely would be. I've been looking at Nepal's results, and they're going okay at the moment. They're not going as good as they have been. So I think there's definitely a chance, but it's just great to have both the women's and men's team involved in such a great tournament, and especially to play on home soil in Japan. We'll run through the squads of the women's and the men's. So the women's, we have Maya Nagita, Erika Ora, Ahia Chandel, Ayumi Fujikawa, Hinasa Goto, Haruna Iwasaki, Shimako Kato, Ayaka Kato, Elena Kuseda, Akari Nishimura, Meg Ogawa, Kurumi Ota, Saika Sumi, Erika Taguchi, and Nonaha Yasu. Sorry, I can't see. Yasu. It's got the
Yasumoto.
symbol over there. That's the one.
Oh,
So,
don't know.
good squad, Alan. Of course, with the Asian Games, it's all Japanese passport holders, I believe.
Yeah, Japanese passport holders, and so they have to go by their Japanese names, or their names in their
Yeah.
passport, which is why you haven't got the double-barreled names. So Elena is Elena Kusuda rather than Elena Kusuda Nairn, and Ayaka is Ayaka Kato rather than Kato Stafford. So yeah, we it's the process. I actually got the article's gone up on our website this week, and actually it hasn't gone up on our website. It's ready to go up. I'm just waiting for a graphic. It will go up at some point, but the we actually had to make sure the wording was correct, and that normally whenever I write an article around the squad announcements, it's the Japanese national selection panel have selected a group of 15 players or whatever. And I wasn't allowed to write that this time. I had to change it, because technically we have selected them, but they have to be approved by the JOC, the Japan Olympic Committee. So the article this time reads: the Japan Olympic Committee have approved the 15 nominated players by the Japan selection panel. So yeah, those are the 15 players, one more than we normally get. Of course, it means four players won't get to play in that game against India, but hopefully they will still appreciate the opportunity to be around the team and be around the experience. And I think that there's a couple of players who might feel a little bit unlucky. The young players certainly. We're going to speak about one of them, or probably both of them, in a minute. Bianca Shino Dyson, who did really well at the under-19 tournament, and Natsume Wada McDonald, who also has impressed since coming into the group. But this squad was picked a long time ago. It was actually picked back in April. So it's the nature of the beast that we have to finalize the Asian Games team a really long way in advance, and you can only make changes if there's injuries. So yeah, that was April. I think it was mid-May we had to finalize the Asian Games team. So yeah, that's the 15 for the girls, and I guess you've got the boys in front of you as well.
Sure do. So we've got Kendall Fleming, Charlie Hines, Benjamin Ito, Kohei Kubota, Wataru Miyauchi, Rayo Sekarano, Alexander Shirai, Sherma Slater, Declan Suzuki, Ibrahim Takahashi, Makoto Taniyama, Lachlan Lake, Alistair Fleming, Jake Kasuda, and Tsuyoshi Takeda.
Yeah, so a few names from the past coming in there. It's good to see Takadi back in the squad, isn't it? I sent him a
It
message
is.
when he announced it on socials and just gave him a big clap. And yeah, it'd be great to have Takadi back in the group. And the other one I guess to talk about is Jake Kusuda. So we've got brother and sister in each team, which is pretty cool, and he'll be in line for a debut should he play. So exciting for Jake. I know he's been working hard over on Gold Coast, coming up to Brisbane a bit to train with the boys who are there. And certainly from speaking to Kendall a few days ago, Jake's been going pretty well. He's very happy with where he's at. So yeah, he'll be pushing for a place in the starting 11 in the absence of Sabaris Ravichandran as another leg spin option. So yeah, the team's yeah, certainly the advantage of this tournament, and yeah, we lose four players in Sabarish, in Isam Rahman, Abdul Samad, and Abhishek Anand, but it's opportunities for four other guys. So, I'm sure everyone's pretty pumped and pretty excited. Alistair Fleming, the other one who's returning, who as it stands, I think he's probably got the best T20I record in the world, isn't he? He's averaging about 60 with a strike rate of 180 or something from his two matches against Mongolia. So, Al's got another chance that has been long coming. So yeah, I think I had a few messages with him recently as well. He's pretty excited too. So yeah, it's exciting times, isn't it?
No, it is, and it's great. Great reward for those players to be included in the squad because the opportunities don't come up very often when you've got such great players like Sabo unavailable and Abhishek Anand. So it's really good for these guys to get their opportunity, and hopefully they can go well and yeah, maybe debut. Be great.
Yeah, there is. I mean, we're getting a few questions. There is a hope that we will have some international cricket prior to the Asian Games. We are looking at hosting a couple of teams prior to the men's and the women's. So one for the women's, one for the men's. Looking at sort of a three-match series between us and one other team. Those conversations are ongoing. Nothing we confirm yet, but fingers crossed we will get that over the line and be able to announce something soon. Um,
Very
I think
exciting.
we can wrap up the Asian Games there, Toddy, because we could speak about it all day. But the next one to talk about, I think, is probably the World Cup qualification pathway. I don't know if you had seen any announcements around that, or if you needed me to run through it. It's not the easiest to understand, but there was an announcement of sorts following the recent ICC conference in Scotland. So we have been told that there will be a global qualifier, which I think we were all kind of expecting. 16 teams in the tournament, of which 8 will go through to the World Cup. Which 8 is not all that straightforward. But we'll get to that. First of all, the representation of the 8 teams. There are 8 teams coming back from the World Cup, I believe. And then there are representations from across the regions. Now, it's a little bit tough in that I think Europe get 2, the Americas maybe get 1, and Asia get 2, and Africa get 1, and the EAP get 1. But of course, Africa and the Americas already have teams coming back from the World Cup, I believe. So
Yeah.
Asia will actually have 5 teams represented at the global qualifier, whilst East Asia Pacific will have 1 team. So a little bit of an imbalance there, which is unfortunate. Of course, had Japan, PNG, or Samoa got that place in Oman in that qualifier, then they would have a team coming back from the World Cup as well, and that would have got us an extra space at this event. So I guess we're paying the price for that. But yeah, I guess it's not hard to figure out my thoughts on that particular imbalance. But it is what it is, and so we will be looking to figure out exactly which team will get that spot. So we have had it confirmed to us that there will be a EAP regional final. We do not know what that will look like, how many teams will be in it, when it will be, where it will be. Since we finished second in the previous tournament, I guess we have to be in that because otherwise it's just one team. So yeah, who knows how many teams that will be? We're still waiting. I guess it could be anything from 3 to 6, I guess. But we will wait with bated breath on that. And hopefully that tournament is one from a Japan point of view that we can go and win and book our place in that global qualifier. Now, the next bit that starts to get confusing is that it says in the ICC release that 8 teams from the global qualifier will go through to the World Cup. However, it also says that the highest or the best performing team from each region will go to the World Cup, pending certain performance criteria. So, in theory, Japan or PNG or Samoa or whoever else it could be, whichever the EAP representative is, well, there's only one EAP team at the global qualifier, so therefore they will be the best performing team in their region. So as long as they meet this mysterious performance criteria, there is a place at the World Cup for the East Asia Pacific region, which is exciting. Of course, we have no idea what this performance criteria could be. It could be that you have to win, you know, 90% of your matches. So if you go out on net run rate, then you'll get a bye. It's a bizarre setup. I can only see it causing a lot of wailing and gnashing of teeth once the tournament concludes, this global qualifier finishes. But it's look, it's an opportunity. At least they are trying. At least there's a semblance of effort to try and have regional representation at the World Cup. I don't understand why they didn't just say the regional winner or from every region goes through, and then they hold a global qualifier for some other teams. That would seem to be the more logical way of doing it. But for whatever reason, that's not what they're doing. I know that they wanted a global qualifier because they wanted meritocratic qualification for the World Cup, but they also wanted regional representation. So they've kind of ended up with this. I suspect this will be a 1 year structure, and there'll be a whole new structure for the next World Cup 2 years hence. But what do you make of all that, Todd? Have you managed to follow it?
I'm looking at the press release now, so I'm trying to make it on the run. I did see something about it last week, but I didn't have a look at the article. So yeah, it's interesting. I think it's good that at least there's a spot to go through from the region. I think that's fantastic. So that's great, and that everyone's going to get a spot. So look at the positive. Um, no, the negative is that it's really moves into your FIFA style stuff going on here, doesn't it? Where no one knows what's happening and things are made up on the run, and then there's decisions made, and no one knows what the decisions are. Much like what's happened now, really, with the
Mm,
tournament in April or May, which where
mm,
no one knew what was going to happen. And yeah, it's interesting. I do see it that says here, as you said, subject to a minimum performance criteria, with nothing below that around what that would be. So I'm interested to see what the outcome of that is. Hopefully, they release that shortly and everyone's aware of what it is, and you don't get to the next stage, or I don't know, playing for games that are worth something that you don't know, and yeah, it's interesting. I'm not
well,
sure how what the criteria would be, but yeah, it's definitely an interesting one. But the positive is that there is a spot definitely to play for. So
yeah. So I had a conversation the other day, and the next board meeting isn't until November. So there's not going to be any update on what this minimum performance criteria is, at least until then. Um, what I was told in the meeting was that, the global qualifier is scheduled for probably early 2028. So we're talking about an event that is almost 18 months away. Um, and so we shouldn't really worry about what the performance criteria is just yet. And I'm like, well, I kind of feel like if there's any chance to have a say in what that performance criteria is, it's now, and that we should probably be pushing this agenda right now, because who knows what they might come up with. And for me, when I look at it, it's going to be a 16-team tournament, right? With 8 people going through. So surely the logical format for that is 4 groups of 4. Everyone plays 3 matches, and the top 2 from each group go through, right? That would be the most cost-effective way of doing it, you would think. And it's simple and easy to follow. However, um, what are you going to do if the team that finishes second loses out to a team that finishes fourth in their group? Because the minimum criteria is that they have to win one game. And if they win one game and they finish fourth in the group on net run rate, but they still go through, how's that team that finishes second going to feel?
yeah,
They're going to be pretty irate. And the team that goes through ahead of them is going to be, a villain, even though it's no fault of their own. Um, and you can imagine there'll be appeals, and there'll be arguments, and there'll be all hell will break loose. Of course, they could do 2 groups of 8, which would be a lot of cricket if they did that. But they could do two groups of 8, and 7 matches each. And then it becomes a little bit more, okay, well, to guarantee a place at the World Cup, you have to have won at least a couple of games, say. So you've got 7 chances to win 2 games. And if that's defined in advance of the tournament, then okay, cool. Well, that's what we know what we're playing for. Um, but then, of course, you look at it and you think, well, hold on. Is it necessarily going to be performance criteria at the tournament? And this was a question that I asked in this meeting yesterday. And I've been led to believe it would be, but I'm like, wouldn't it actually be more fair to take it over a longer period of time and say, okay, the minimum performance criteria is you have to have won X amount of games over the previous 12 months. And it could be a percentage of games over 12 months, or it could be games against teams ranked in the top 25 or 30 or whatever it might be. I don't know. Does it have to be at the tournament? Because that way, if it is at the tournament, you go into it knowing that at the end of it, there is potential for blow ups. But if you have at least something in advance, it's like, well, okay, um, there's a bit more clarity. I just hate not having clarity. Um, but I guess, if there's a guarantee, if you have to achieve a certain thing before the tournament, and if you haven't, then you're traveling to a tournament knowing that you've got to finish in the top two in your group or whatever it might be to go through. I think that's clarity. But you also go through saying that if you have achieved that, then you're going to the tournament knowing you've already qualified for the World Cup. So the tournament is just a bit of a hit and giggle. So yeah, it's extremely messy, is I guess my overall point. It is great that there is a spot for the EAP region in theory, but nothing guaranteed as yet. So look, I guess we're just gonna have to sit and follow that story and see how it progresses. But it's an interesting one for sure. I think I was going to talk about the ODI World Cup pathway as well. I don't know if you've seen that because that is completely bonkers, but it doesn't relate to Japan at this point. But all I'll say about it is that it's an embarrassment to tournament organization. And whoever came up with it honestly needs to have a long, hard look in the mirror. The only the only way I can think that they came up with the plan for the ODI World Cup is that a load of people got in a room and got blind drunk and came up with this new structure because that I could at least understand. But if a load of people actually sat around and thought it was a good idea, then there's issues. They've decided that after a 3-year qualification period, you still have to the lowest ranked teams get to play in a little tri series of which one team goes through to the World Cup proper, but they have to travel to where the World Cup is to play that. I mean, they have previous on this as well, right? The ICC of these World Cup matches, which are supposed to be part of the World Cup, but they're not really. It's just awful. I can't get
I
my head
think
around
they're
it.
trying to. I think they're trying to copy the FIFA World Cup and trying to get more games in. They think, oh, it's a great idea. How can we get on this bandwagon? But unfortunately, it's a bit different with cricket, and I think that it could just end up being a bit of a shambles. Couldn't it?
Well, the thing is, they committed to a 14-team World Cup, but they don't actually want a 14-team World Cup. So they've ended up with they've come up with a way of how they can get rid of a couple of teams, getting rid of a couple of teams early, so that it's actually only a 12-team World Cup or whatever it is. Whether I've lost track a little bit,
The
but
Super Series, Super
they've
Series round
basically
one.
yeah they've just found a way to get rid of 2 teams to make themselves feel better. It's yeah. Anyway, we won't weigh on the negatives. But yeah, it was pretty disappointing for those teams. And look, obviously Japan we remain ambitious to one day compete in the 50 over tournaments. We need to get our ranking up high enough before we can realize that particular ambition. So T20 remains the focus at the moment. But at some point, I hope that the ODI World Cup structure will be relevant to us, and then I can get really angry about it officially rather than just as a fan. Um, all right, on to some performance, on some actual cricket, shall we? We've been going for about 20 minutes. We haven't talked about the cricket yet. So the women's under 19s were in Malaysia. You got some scorecards in front of you, Todd.
I do. So, yeah, as Alan said, the women's under 19s went for the Premier Cup of 2026 in Malaysia in June, I believe it was. Which,
Yes.
fantastic. First tournament for the under 19s,
First
Alan?
time ever. First time ever
Yep.
the Japan women's under 19s team have been out in the park. So they only had about 1 or 2 days training as a group prior to the tournament itself. And obviously there's 3 players living overseas. So actually the first time the playing group came together was in Malaysia. Like the day before the first match. So, not a lot of prep time, but given that, I think they gave a pretty good account of themselves.
They did. The first game historically for the Japan under 19 women's was a win too, so it was a fantastic effort. We'll go through the scorecard. So Japan batted first, got 113 for 7. Yeah, Shino Dyson 58, Suzuki 2, Akazuki 1, Sakuraba 20, Kazuan 13, Wada McDonald 2, Kurihara 1, and I missed Yamaguchi. I think got a diamond duck run out by the looks there. Bit unlucky first game, but and then Myanmar, who were the team playing against Japan, they managed 109 for 7 off their 20 overs. Go through the bowling. We had Wada McDonald 1 for 22, Vida Perthmath 1 for 15, Kaswan 2 for 12, Sakuraba 1 for 13, Kurihara 2 for 19, Gandecha none for 9, and Yamaguchi none for 16 in a historical victory, Alan. Fantastic result.
Yeah, it was one of those games. It wasn't streamed, so it's one of those games I'm sitting just following it on the live scores on the app, and I saw we'd posted 113. I was like, yeah, that seems like a pretty good total. And we had top of my head, I think they were like 50 for 6, and they were 80 for 7 with 3 overs to go. So they needed, to go at tens basically for the last 3 overs, 7 down. So I was like, oh, this is pretty comfortable. And I was just sitting down to eat dinner, and I kind of put my phone down, and I was like, oh, we've got this one in the bag. And then kind of forgot about it for 10 minutes. So I better check, picked up my phone, and they were going into the last over, and they needed 7 off the last over. I was like, oh, hang on, this has got a bit close. The same two girls are batting. What's happened here? And then I think there was a wicket off the first ball of the last over, and then a couple of dots, and yeah, we got home. It looked a bit closer than it probably was in reality, but yeah, couldn't quite get it done and keep it stress free, but ultimately over the line. And look, I think for any team, winning their first ever match on the international stage is an amazing achievement. So like we went into this tournament not really knowing what to expect, and I'd said to the coaching staff beforehand that it's a learning opportunity, and any results or individual performances are a bonus. So for Bianca, the captain, to go out there and make an unbeaten half century in the very first game it's amazing. And it shows that we were right that she was probably the next batter in line, and she went on the recent women's tour. She didn't get much of a go, unfortunately, in Malaysia with the women's team. She only got to face, I think, 1 or 2 balls in one game, coming in the final over. But there's obviously talent there, and she will talk probably a bit more about her after the last couple of games. But yeah, like winning a game, and the bowlers did well. We coughed up a few extras, which is to be expected, but ultimately no more than the other teams. So Myanmar are a team that are ranked, pretty much the same as our women's team in the national rankings. So that's why we're paired with them in each of these tournaments. So they're a team that we're looking to move past, and hopefully we've got a bit of depth, and I think that's what this tournament's really doing for us, and having this team. We've depth for the women's game has been a bit of a struggle, so now we're actually getting a chance to see the girls playing matches, and certainly from speaking to the coaching staff at the end of it, the opportunity and the learning they got from this was significant. So yeah, really 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 good day for Japan cricket, that one, and a long time in the making.
Yeah, definitely. It was I wasn't shocked. I thought they'd go well, but it was fantastic to see them win their first game. And then the second game came up against Thailand, who were pretty strong in the women's cricket. So Thailand batted first. They got 155 for 7. Have a look at the bowling. Wada McDonald 3 for 14. Fantastic effort. Sakuraba none for 24. Gundecha 1 for 33. Kaswan 1 for 38. Miyazaki 1 for 24, and Akuzuki 1 for 19. And then Japan, in response, got 27 all out of 17 overs. So Shino Dyson 16, Yamaguchi 0,
We probably
Suzuki
don't need to run
3.
through the whole scorecard, I reckon.
Yeah, we don't have to. The rest of the single figure scores, but yeah, that's all. As we said, it's all about the experience and their first tournament. And Thailand are very strong in the women's side of cricket, Alan.
Yeah, and it's worth mentioning that going into that game, we'd actually already qualified for the quarterfinals. So by winning the first game, that booked our place in the knockout. So this game was a bit of a free hit. We played our strongest team, obviously, in the first game, and we made 3 changes for this game, knowing that Thailand are strong, and that it was a chance for the 3 girls who didn't play in the first game to have an outing. So we've technically played what you'd expect was our weakest team in that game, knowing that Thailand would likely go on to possibly. I actually, off the top of my head, I can't actually remember who won this tournament. But I've got a feeling they might have done. So I think they did. They did go on to win the tournament. So they're the strongest team there, and then for us, again, a chance to, like we were just saying, with the men getting to play Afghanistan and the women getting to play India in the Asian Games, it's a chance to measure yourself against the best in your age group and to see where you stand, and that can only be a positive learning experience. And I think, you mentioned Natsume Wada McDonald, 3 for 14 against that team is a terrific effort. So yeah, really, really pleasing. And that then set up a quarterfinal against Nepal, who up until that point were absolutely smashing teams. Going into that game, I think in their previous two games, they'd made 199 for none and 200 for three. So we were a little bit wary coming up against Nepal, but I think we did okay. You've got the scores there, Todd.
Yeah, they definitely did. So Japan batted first, got 86 all out off 20 overs, so last ball, lost their last wicket. Shino Dyson, 38 not outs. Go down the scorecard. Sakuraba 10, Suzuki 10, and the rest were single figures. So Japan got to 86. Pretty good effort, I think, against the strong Nepal team. As you said, they're going around and whacking 200, and they did pretty well. Nepal in reply, they got 90 for one wicket to Kaswan, who actually got 1 for 11, one maiden off 4 overs. So fantastic effort by Kaswan. But great tournament for the under 19 women's team. I think it's as you said, got their first win, and that's not a bad effort actually with the bat against Nepal.
Yeah, I was really, really pleased with that as a batting innings. And that we mentioned her already, but Bianca Shino Dyson, she wasn't out in the whole tournament. She's, batted 3 times and for not dismissed. Batting at the top of the order, opening the batting. That game against Nepal was actually live streamed, so I was able to watch that. And she certainly looks good when she hits on the up through the offside and played some really nice shots in that innings of 38. Carry the bat. We were all out off the last ball, I think. So we batted the 20 overs in that game. And to do that in 2 of the 3 games is a pretty good effort. There wasn't a lot of support with the bat below her, and I think when I looked at it in total, I think she scored almost exactly half our runs in the tournament as a whole. So obviously a little bit reliant on her, but scoring runs in the women's game is the hardest skill, and I think it's one of those things that we have to look to try and develop our players. But she's shown what's possible, and she's shown that she's next in line for a position as a batter in the women's national team. So so much learnt from it, and I had a good chat with Vinay afterwards, and he said how proud he was of the girls for that performance and the way that they sort of responded to the challenges that they were facing, and the way that they trained, and they had some extra training sessions as well, and they came together as a group really well. So these kind of under 19 tour, they only happen every 2 years. So this will be the only time that group plays together. So it's a real one-off experience for them. We're not in the ICC pathways yet. Have to wait another 2 years for that to come around. So the next group will hopefully get a few more opportunities, but we do need to work out what we do next with this group of players and what we do, where we take them and how to try and find some matches. One thing worth mentioning that we were a player. I said full strength. We were a player short in Sakura Pankhurst wasn't available for this because she'd been selected for Hong Kong in a tournament prior to these. Well, not a tournament, sorry, just a bilateral series. They were Hong Kong women's team, under 19 women's team, went over to Thailand, I think, and played like a 5-match series. Sakura did okay in that, but then didn't get picked for either this tournament or for the Asia qualifiers, which followed, which was a bit of a surprise. She's young. She's only 13, 14, I think. But we'd expected her to be picked, and we certainly would have picked her. So I think that she was, expected to be selected for that as well. I haven't spoken to the family, but yeah, she wasn't in our squad for that reason. So it was a bit of a surprise to see her not selected, and we ended up going further than Hong Kong in that tournament. So yeah, that was quite pleasing in the end. But hopefully she's back in Japan playing in the girls' leagues and possibly pushing for a place in the WJPL in the not too distant future. So we don't really know where her international future lies. I've had 1 or 2 chats with the family, but remains an open book at least that she's still eligible for us. Of course, not entirely at full strength, and that Ayaka Kato Stafford wasn't there, and would have been, a pretty big player in that tournament following her successes. She certainly wanted to be there, um, but she has commitments back in Queensland now, and I think the Queensland Fire were back in training, so she was back doing preseason with them, so wasn't able to be on this tour, and certainly would have made a big difference. But we've spoken with the coaching staff, and we know that we need to develop more players, and a tournament like that, like I said, it's a bit of a free hit as a learning experience. So, yeah, really, really positive and great to have a team out competing at that level.
Yeah, definitely. And I know that it was a good opportunity for some staff to go on their first trip. So I think it's definitely a well worth trip away for the under 19 women's team. So next we're going to have a look at some domestic cricket, Alan.
We're not quite, mate. We're not quite gonna
Oh,
go to the
cool.
domestics just yet. We're talking about worthwhile trips overseas. So the under-19 men are off to Sri Lanka. Um, so that announcement went up on the JCA website yesterday, and I think went up on socials today. So we're looking at the next group of under-19 players, the next batch who are likely to be representing Japan in the World Cup qualifiers next year. We don't know when or where those will be yet. The EAP Division 2 tournament happens, I want to say next month, September, nearly next month. It's not quite August yet. Um, that tournament will take place, and then we'll know once we know which three teams are competing in the EAP Division 1 tournament. The ICC will make a call on where it's going to be held. Um, so we need to get our boys ready, because otherwise they won't play any cricket this year. It's the first time the group gets together after the World Cup. So obviously a few guys aging out, guys like Kazuma Kato Stafford, Nihal Palmer, Nicol Pole, Kai Wall, probably a couple of others that I'm forgetting. Um, Charlie Harrahins isn't available for the tour, and neither is Kaisei Kobayashi Doggett. So Hugo Tani Kelly will be leading that team. We mentioned him earlier. It was interesting that his name came up a lot in the Asian Games announcement. A lot of the comments underneath: "Where's Hugo Tani Kelly? Why isn't he in the team?" Obviously, got a bit of a reputation after his exploits at the Under-19 World Cup, but he is still very much part of the Under-19 framework, and will be getting his first leadership opportunity. So just a five-match tour, playing some local club sides: Colombo South, 2 games against them; Colombo North, Kalutara District, and Western Province, I think, are the 4 teams that we're playing. So first match on the 2nd of August, and the final match on the 9th. So I don't know if you've dug out the squad there, but there's a few new names, a few new faces in that team. I can run through it if you haven't got it in front of you, Toddy. But
Got
we've
it. I was
got,
just going to ask you about a couple
yeah,
new
sure, far
faces.
away.
So we've got Hugo Tani Kelly, Juto Ball, Tiger Haig.
Yeah, so Tiger was part of the under-16 team. I don't think so. The only player, there's 2 players, 3 players, 3 players, no, 4 players, 4 players who haven't represented Japan yet. So Ariash Waduge, younger brother of Arian. Um, so he's on his first trip. Um, Mickey Kabuki Wall, who is the younger brother of Kai, is on his first trip. William Markwell came and did really well in the Futures League earlier this year, and he'll be on his first trip. And Adil Khan, who's a local player who's been in Japan for quite a long time, it turns out, but only really came known to the Japan cricket community in the last 18 months or so. So the others who went on the under-16s trip: Eric Harrison, Riku Tanaka, Ishan Lal, Tiger Haig, and that's it. Those guys all played in the under-16s. So Tiger, um, wicketkeeper batter, he'll be providing backup or challenging Skylar for a place behind the stumps. I think he played as a batter in the under-16 tournament, because Skylar and him are the same age. But he makes quite a few runs in under-16, under-15, under-19 level in Japan. So it's an opportunity for him to test himself again, and all these guys to test themselves against so some of the best young cricketers in Sri Lanka. They'll be playing under-19 teams, so they'll be good. They'll be good sides. I'm expecting it to be a pretty tough tour, but hopefully a really good learning opportunity for these guys, and we'll set them up well for the qualifier. There's plenty of experience in that team. You look at Arian Wadagay, um, the 2 Hara Hins boys, Gabby and Monty, obviously Hugo Taylor, War, and Skylar Nakayama Cook, all fresh from the World Cup this year. Taylor actually was over in Japan earlier this summer, scored 100 in the game that he played locally. So, still going well, obviously having missed the Futures League this year. But yeah, bags of talent and definitely an opportunity for these guys to show that they are, ready and pushing for selection. Obviously, Charlie and Kaisei, you would expect to come back into that squad for the World Cup itself. And I think we've got 15 players named here. So probably three of those players would you'd expect to miss out on selection for the World Cup. And there may be other guys for the World Cup qualifiers, sorry. And there will be other guys pushing to come in as well. But it's a pretty good core squad. And it was a case of checking who's available because it's not a full international tour. There were a few costs involved for the families. So um, it's it's a great opportunity to go to somewhere completely unfamiliar, and it follows on from the men having been over there last year. And we have to give a big thank you to Senaro, who are sponsoring a big chunk of the costs. They're a local automobile company in Sri Lanka, and they're certainly helping with the logistics and make sure the tour goes smoothly. So yeah, those matches, they won't be live streamed, but scores will all be live on the JCA app, so that's where everyone can follow those.
Beautiful. Yeah, it's good to have a tour for the boys to play some cricket together. As you said, then I get a lot of chances to play together. So leading into the qualifiers, where's the next under 19 World Cup? Has that been announced yet, Alan?
There's all these rumors that it's in Bangladesh, but I actually went and double checked that recently, and I can't find confirmation of it anywhere. So,
Okay.
rumored to be in Bangladesh, but I have no idea if that's just someone making it up on social media or if it's actually true. So yeah, and normally it gets announced straight after the previous tournament. But I did actually
Mm.
ask the ICC regional office about it a few weeks ago, and they were like, "Oh, I don't know." So they either just hadn't looked at it or just genuinely didn't know, or it hasn't been announced yet. So I will dig into that because as mentioned, the Division Two qualifier is soon. So you'd think they'd have a plan for where the next tournament will be. It's always held
Yeah,
in
interesting.
January, so it has to be somewhere that can hold it in January.
Yeah, interesting. I see an article here saying the ICC has officially named Bangladesh as a host of an ICC event between 2028 and 2031.
Doesn't give
Who
you a lot to go
knows?
off, does
Who
it?
knows? Who knows? But yeah, I'm sure they'll go well on their tour of Sri Lanka.
Oh God, the World Cup will be 2028, won't it?
Hmm.
That's interesting.
Sure is.
So it'll be January 2028, and the global qualifier will be Q1 2028. So if Japan qualify for that, then poor old poor old Charlie forgetting school again. Who needs
Oh,
school?
big start to the 2028.
Yeah. Cool. Okay, now it's time to come closer to home, Todd. You've got some stuff from local cricket in Japan to talk about.
We're just going to have a look at the how the table's going in the Japan Cricket League Division One for this year. So we've got the Tigers on top, 7 games, 6 wins on 29 points. So we've got the Tokyo Titans who seem to be going well. They're second on 21, Sano Bulls 18, Tokyo Falcons 16. Then there's a group of 4 teams between 15 and 11 points. Just having a look, Tokyo Titans have improved a bit, Alan, looks like this year, and we've got the teams that finished first and second outside the finals. Chiba Sharks seventh and Alpha Quash's ninth. So bit of change, some changes this year. Of course, the games are a bit, most teams have played between 6 and 7 games. I noticed there's been some abandoned games and some been too warm or washouts, but yeah, I think it's all going to kick off again this weekend.
Yeah, well, there is nothing more predictable than the unpredictability of the Japan Cricket League, Toddy. You should know that by now. Who knows on any given weekend day what's going to happen in the JCL Division One. I guess, as you mentioned, Tigers are running away with it a little bit at the top of the table right now. But I don't know how much this is common knowledge, but I don't even know if you know about this, but the Tigers are about to suffer a bit of a blow um, as their captain, all-rounder, superstar departs Japanese shores. So Subarish Ravichandran is moving back to India. He is relocating with his
Oh,
family, and he leaves next week. Um,
oh, wow.
so a huge loss for the Japanese cricket community. He will, I'm sure, continue to make himself available for Japan Premier League and of course for Japan. So that's another logistical nightmare for me to deal with going forward, which I can't wait. But I think the Tigers will probably feel it more than most. So it'll be interesting to see how they go without their talisman. But he's doing his best to put them in as good a position as he can. I saw him score. We won't go into the other tournaments, but I think he scored a Japan Cup 50 off 11, 12 balls a few weeks ago. It was 74 off 19 or something. Um, so yeah, he's obviously been making hay whilst he can, and it'll be really interesting to see what being back in India does for his cricket. He's got a couple of kids now. He's got the family commitments, but with going back to his home state and being around his family again, I think he'll probably have more people who can help out with the kids. So it might give him even more opportunity to train and to play, and being back in cricket's mecca really of the opportunity to be surrounded by training facilities, coaches. We may well see um, an even better and an even more fired up Sabaresh Ravichandran in Japan shirts going forward. So I'm sure he'll be watching on at the Asian Games with envy. But a chance for him to yeah, keep his game going and keep breaking more records. I think this is very, very likely for Sabara. So he'll be greatly missed. We should thank him for his service. I'm hoping to catch up with him before he goes. But yeah, that's probably the biggest news coming out of Japan cricket domestic circles in recent weeks.
Wow, that's big news for the JCL Division One, and good luck to Savarash moving back to India. Good luck with the move. But I see he pulled up his last scorecard here. So he played uh, 2 weeks ago. He batted at six and got himself 103 off 66 out of 223. And he came on and bowled just, 3 overs, two for 11. So not a bad effort in his last
He
game. But
he
good
might have
luck to
done
him and his
enough.
family.
He might have done enough to get Player of the Year already, even though he doesn't
Well,
doesn't play half the season. So we'll see. Might have to fly him back for the awards or stick him in the post for him. I don't know. Um, but yeah, he's going to need a separate suitcase to take all his awards from the previous years back to India with him. Maybe he's going to book out one of those shipping containers and just put all his division JCL division awards in there. Um,
but,
but yes, it's a big mess, and we'll see how the Tigers go. Um, Last thing on the agenda that I had, Toddy, was the Embassy Cup. Little update on the Embassy Cup. There is a small change to it this year where, due to the Asian Games, close proximity to when the Embassy Cup is, the Asian Games, of course, the last sort of 3 weeks of September, and the Embassy Cup traditionally held the final week of October. It's just going to be 1 week, 1 day this year. So it's going to be a T10 tournament, straight semi-finals and final and third. So 8 matches in a day, rather than spreading it across the 2 days and having a full round robin. Yeah, so semi-finals and straight knockouts. So that'll be a bit of fun, a bit more hit and giggle. It will take place on the last Saturday in October, and we'll all be on the live stream. So one for everyone to look out for. But I don't think I've got anything else on my list of things to go through, mate. Anything else in your neck of the woods that you wanted to bring up?
no, I think we covered everything on the pod. We've been going for a little bit, but yeah, no, we'll try and get on in a couple of weeks' time, have some more news on a few things. There's always something going on in the cricket world.
Yeah, there is. So we'll have obviously the under-19s that we mentioned, their tour to Sri Lanka to wrap up. And hopefully we'll have some announcements around which national teams are coming to Japan pre-Asian Games. So yeah, that's all work in the progress. So for now, thanks for listening, everyone, and we will catch you again. Let's go some of this stuff.